It's 2007. We're edgy. We have bangs. We have eyeliner on. We dance to funky music going down the street with hip thrusting. This is Spider-Man 3 on WAM.
Hey, 2007, have you ever thought about like calming down, taking like some medication or something? Do we have to be all in our face all right then?
Nope. I'm unmedicated and unchecked. Ooh, ooh.
Unchecked.
Yeah.
Nobody cares enough about me to find out how I'm doing, baby.
Welcome to WAM, episode 38. This week we finish our third of the Sam Raimi trilogy with Spider-Man 3, my personal favorite. The movie originally released in 2007, but along with all eight, I believe, Spider-Man movies, they're currently being re-released on a week-by-week basis at theaters just because there's nothing else to fucking show, so Sony wants money.
Yeah, this is definitely still in a sort of time where there aren't a lot of movies coming out right now. We have some great ones lined up for this summer and fall, but this spring was pretty dead. So we're filling up theaters with re-releases, and now we're on Spider-Man 3. I'm really enjoying that trend. We have more Spider-Man after this, but we just knew we wanted to watch the Sam Raimi trilogy for sure, and then the Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland movies we'll think about watching.
Maybe
Maybe.
Andrew Garfield movies. It's so hard to go back to them because if I ever get to the second one, because the second one's pretty bad. But if I finish the second one, then I'll be like, oh man, I wonder what happened with his parents in the next movie. It doesn't exist.
Huh, I wonder what happened with Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, it'll never exist. And then I just don't like Tom Holland. But either way, do you want me to go through the plot thing, or you want you to do it?
Well, here's what I want to do if you do the plot. This is, we both agree, a very filled movie. This has so many different characters put into it, a lot of plot points I have to go through. So doing a normal plot summary isn't really easy, is it?
No, there's because we had the three villains in this movie and the love plot and like other characters introduced it with that love plot, there's just a lot of names, there's a lot of things happening at the same time where the first 15 minutes of this movie, you get this huge action scene with Peter and Harry, but
Yeah.
so there's constantly stuff going on through this whole movie.
So what I would say for you then is, how much do you think you can go through just like this description on one breath?
Ooh, I don't know. I can try. All right. We start with MJ on Broadway. Peter's gonna propose, but Harry hates Peter. Flint Marco's escaping, and the Venom meteor just landed. Peter fights with Harry. Peter knocks out Harry and then gets amnesia. Marco becomes Sandman, begins robbing banks, and then meets Spider. Peter fails to propose to MJ, and she begins pushing him away. Peter learns that Sandman actually killed Uncle Ben. Peter gets a black suit and immediately goes to kill Sandman. Harry gets his memory back and forces Marco to meet Peter. Tells Peter that Peter sees Eddie's fake spider suit photo and humiliates him at the bugle. Eddie loses everything.
You can keep going. What an effort.
Oh, man.
Good effort.
Marco becomes Sandman, and then he immediately starts robbing banks and stuff to give money to his daughter. Peter fails to propose to Mary Jane, and she begins pushing him away. Peter then learns that Sandman actually killed Uncle Ben instead of the guy we thought in the first movie. Peter gets the black suit, immediately goes to kill Sandman. Harry gets his memory back. He forces MJ to leave Peter, and then Harry tells Pete that he is the other guy. The black suit Peter confronts Harry, blows up half his face. Peter sees that Eddie faked the black suit spider photos and humiliates him at the bugle. Eddie loses everything, his job, his girlfriend, all of it. Peter gets a massive ego. We get that fantastic dance scene going down the sidewalk. Peter then takes Gwen out to make MJ jealous at her work. It blows right up in his face. Peter ends up sad on the roof of a church and removes the symbiote. Eddie Brock then becomes the new host of Venom, and Sandman and Venom team up to try to kill Peter. Venom takes MJ hostage. Peter comes in to save her after Harry refuses to help him. Sandman and Venom are killing Peter, and then
yeah, they're succeeding in killing Peter.
Harry swipes in. He throws a bomb into Sandman's ear. It explodes and kind of saves the day. In the end, Harry ends up getting stabbed by the glider, just like his dad, by Venom. But then Venom ends up getting killed along with Eddie Brock by Peter. And then we have this whole kind of nice connection with Sandman where he apologizes for killing Uncle Ben. Peter says he forgives him. Sandman just kind of fucking leaves, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we just have this kind of nice moment with Harry where he's like, hey, man, sorry I'm fucking dead. That sucks. You're still cool though, and that's really it. That's the end of the movie. But holy shit,
It's it's so much, and there are some really great elements in there, and I how would you feel? There is a lot that happens in this movie, but I feel like that issue doesn't really become obvious until the end. Up until then, I'm sort of rolling with everything. I'm like, "Okay, I'm understanding what's happening. Everything sort of makes sense in this." And then the second that that hits, or around the ending, I'm just like, "Wow, everything has to be resolved right now." That's
yeah.
too fast.
There's a lot going on. I mean, up until I'd say up until Eddie Brock becomes the new host of Venom, we have a
Mhm.
pretty good consistent flow and
Yes.
variety of, I'll say, the 3 storylines. We do have Sandman and Venom converging into one, but then after that, we just full focus on them. They take MJ. We kind of forget about the whole problems that we had before with MJ and Peter. Those really aren't resolved at all.
No.
Um, and then the problems with Harry, Harry still should be fucking insane because he has the goblin gas. But he's cool for like 20 minutes, I guess. And like
I
that's really
uh-huh.
it.
I think they show a lot that sort of goes into how Harry has perfected his father's work. Maybe he perfected the goblin gas a little bit. Let me tell you something. If you got rid of the insanity part of the goblin gas, you can sell that for billions of dollars.
Exactly. Yeah. He could just make he already is a millionaire, I guess. He doesn't really want to.
Yeah, he's just driven by revenge and nothing else.
But in this movie, Sam Raimi originally didn't want to include Venom. He
Mhm.
finished the story, wrote it and everything with Sandman and Harry as the main villains, and then their producer Avi, whatever his last name is, said quote is, "Sam, listen, you are so very aware of all these '70s villains, but you really need to incorporate Venom into the story because fans really like Venom, and don't be so selfish with the villains that you know and love." So Venom was pretty much force fed into this movie, and you can really tell.
Mhm. I It's so funny because this story in sort of showing how Peter has changed, because in the first movie it's a strong origin story where it's him just figuring out his place. The second movie is about him dealing with the consequences of being a hero and all the sacrifices it has to take. But in this third movie it shows how he's excelled and he's figured out pretty much everything about being a hero, and that leads to an arrogance. And that arrogance ties so well into Venom from a just a purely on paper standpoint. But when you continue to go down into like how this portrayal happened, you could tell more and more Sam's heart just wasn't in it to actually like make a Venom story. He doesn't really attach himself to the character that much. It's sometimes an afterthought.
Mhm.
And I don't know. It's so interesting because this movie in promotion in memory is Venom.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what Spider-Man 3 would look like if Venom wasn't there because the black
Hmm.
suit is so synonymous with, like, everything that Peter's doing in this movie, it's the direct reasoning. But, Sam Raimi's gone on record saying that he just really didn't know anything about Venom at the time, he had to do a lot of research then, and those people, like his producer, were basically his teachers about Venom, so we really got the version of Venom that those producers kind of envisioned, and not
Hmm.
as much what Sam thought because he grew up reading, Sandman and those other villains, but he didn't know anything about Venom, and so it was just really thrown in there, and so it doesn't do the character justice, doesn't do the movie justice, and so it's just kind of in a weird spot.
I like to imagine he was reading Secret Wars for like the first version of the black suit, and he's just going, "What the fuck is happening?
What?
I have to
What?
include
What?
the Fantastic Four?"
Oh, okay, he's just sweating reading reading comics. Yeah. But overall, how are you gonna feel about the individual characters through this?
It's so weird. I think a lot of the individual characters are their best. I think MJ is really compelling in this. She's much more of a character. She continued to become more and more central to the plot as the story goes on. I think Harry Osborn is really interesting because it goes from he's purely just like I guess broody and edgy when
Mhm.
he's before he gets the head crash, and then the second he gets the head injury, he becomes this like this just pure version of himself without
Yeah, I
any
mean,
problems. His
he said,
father's
"Bump on the
gone.
head, he's as free as a bird." Like, that's
Yeah,
exactly how he's acting through the movie.
because he doesn't have the pain of his father. He doesn't have the pain of his death or of knowing Peter Spider-Man. So everything that was like harm to him is gone, and it was really cool to see him just in a happy state, and how that relates to MJ. Because as she is having this issue with the arrogant Peter Parker, here is someone she used to love back in a state at his prime. Like, it's just like remembering high school where he's just a perfect version of himself. And that's really interesting because then it goes from she, like, when all this is happening with Peter, she falls for James Franco a little bit. And then, like, the second they make out, he immediately remembers, oh, yeah, I have to be fucking evil. And
Gotta be
evil
an asshole.
God, Evil Harry was pretty fun because I really like how evil he got. It's so much more meticulous and emotional than Norman ever got. Where it's like, I'm here to destroy Peter's emotions. Like, because original Gabi was just like, I'll threaten the people he loves. And then Harry's like, no, it's so much better if the problem is just he's a dick and I make him seem like he's just a huge dick.
Yeah, I really enjoy Harry's actions through the movie, but I think his character overall was kind of watered down just to make room for
Mhm.
Sandman and Venom in the movie.
Yeah.
But there's still characterization. Like, at the end, he helps Peter, and then the way they talk to him, they're interacting. They're still best friends. He calls him buddy, stuff like that.
Hmm.
When he's dying, he's smiling and laughing with Peter, and so
Hmm.
I really enjoy that characterization that they did keep. But overall, I just kind of wanted more from the character because there is a lot of potential there. It's just there's other elements holding us back.
How did you feel about our obviously Spider-Man, Peter Parker, pre-Venom and post-Venom?
Pre-Venom, I mean, really, he wasn't necessarily doing too much better relationship-wise
Yeah.
pre-Venom.
Mhm.
He was still fumbling the bag when he just got Venom. He was just being an asshole doing it, but
Yeah.
he just didn't know he was doing it before.
Mhm.
Um, I enjoy the brutality and the way he fights, like when we see Venom and Sandman fight, and
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man thinks he's killing Sandman, grinding his face up against this train, throwing him into water, seeing him like go away into mud. He thinks
Yeah.
he dies. He says good riddance. I really like seeing that brutality in the character,
Mhm.
but I don't think it could be like if Black Suit Spider-Man was just how Spider-Man was, I don't think that'd be a good character at all.
I think that's fair. I think it is really interesting because, like, even though we say, yeah, Venom was sort of just shoved in there, the idea of showing Venom's brutality with Sandman is genius because this is someone that, in most cases, cannot die, and you can just throw as many punches at as you want to sort of show how brutal that Venom is.
Yeah,
And
because
I,
we couldn't have done that with anyone else, or else it would have been bloody gore. We couldn't have shown it, all that. But doing
yeah,
this, it both made it okay for a kids movie, and then still for the adults watching, you see this guy's face get ground in half, and then he's like down on the floor and like starts getting it reformed with sand. Like the
hmm,
effects on Sandman through this movie are really good. I like
really
all the
good.
sand, how it's moving. It doesn't just look like bad static or anything. It's
No,
really fun. But one thing I wanted to touch on with Sandman also is that his character, I just really enjoy his
hmm,
motivation through this. The reason Raimi ended up choosing Sandman is because he has so little backstory that he thought he could flesh him out without comic book fans getting angry about it.
that's
Um,
fair.
yeah. And so I enjoy the fact that, he's only committing crime and stealing to get money for his daughter to help get her healthy. She has some kind of disease. She has a
Hmm.
cane and like an oxygen tube, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not just the like I'm a bad guy, I just want money, or like a
Yeah.
revenge thing where he has a specific goal, and he mentions numerous times he doesn't like being a villain, he doesn't like doing these bad things and hurting people. He's just trying to make ends meet, trying
Mhm.
to help his daughter, and I love that for a villain.
I ultimately believe that, and this is the case with every villain Sam Raimi usually has, they're always sympathetic in these Spider-Man movies. Norman Osborn is sort of like taken host by Goblin. You have Norman Osborn that's obviously host to the Arms, and then you have, did I say Nor? Did I
Yeah, you said Norman twice. I think Otto.
Sad. Otto
Yeah.
Octavius. And then we also have obviously Flint Marko, who really just has to like help his daughter. I even think Harry Osborn falls a little bit into this because it's really just an issue of miscommunication. But then you
Mhm.
have Venom, and he's just like, and there's just Topher Grace playing Eddie Brock, and he's like, no, I might be the worst person on earth.
I don't, dude. I could not get into Topher Grace being Eddie Brock. It was so not
Uh
working. It was just that '70s show. Eric Foreman
huh.
standing there, like he never gave me he gave me douchebag vibes, but he never gave me like this guy's a threat kind of vibes. You know, it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this fucking character.
I really liked him up until he got the Venom. Like, quite literally, if it was just, in the clock tower and then there was changes from there, I would think he was my favorite character in this, because I really enjoy how it shows, like, the negative version of Peter Parker, how he doesn't have really integrity, how he's really out there. He's, like, really pushing in the Daily Bugle. He has a girlfriend that's also, like, constantly in and out of a relationship with. It's I really like that, and he is sort of like just this idea of a threat to Peter and his like realm. But at the same time, the second he gets the Venom on, it's stupid because I don't like Thin Venom. I think the effects on his face were dumb and icky,
Yeah.
and my spider sense is tingling, if you know what I mean. What the fuck?
He had such good lines. I like being bad. It makes me happy. They're
Sam
so.
Raimi
Oh,
Sam Raimi depicting Venom is so fucking weird because all it is saying the strangest lines out loud, and it's like when Peter Parker's just looking at the stand and he sees the photo of Eddie Brock and he says to no one, "I'm gonna throw some dirt in your eye."
there's
What are
dirty.
you talking about?
Yeah, he's just talking to himself. You know, there's some dirt in your eye. Last character I do want to touch on really quickly. Not really a major character at all, but the butler, Harry's butler, that was Norman and Harry's. At the end of the movie, the reason that Harry ends up going to help Peter is the butler's like, Harry, I've seen some shit in this house. The glider definitely killed your dad. Why the fuck did he not tell Harry for months? He just withheld this information as he saw Harry go off this fucking deep end. Like,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
nothing.
Um, yeah, the entire time when I heard him say that, he went from just being like, I guess, just like not even an accomplice, but just being sort of ignorant. And the second he said that, I'm like, man, you could have stopped so many deaths if you knew about, like, if you knew about Green Goblin as he was on a killing spree.
So stupid. Um, but you know, those characters aside, I do think I enjoy the larger cast compared to 1 and 2. I
Yeah, I
like
think there's a
the
lot
more
that's
more
fun.
names in the hat, you know, more people that we gotta worry about. There's more relationships we can kinda play with, but at the same time, that did give us our issue with the end where things were just concluded way too quickly and some things were just kind of ignored.
Hmm.
But I like seeing all the characters and then seeing all the comic book connections and almost every every fight, every idea in this movie was almost directly based off a comic book. Like I think
Hmm.
Spider-Man from like 66 to like 95 kind of a range.
That's a
He just pulled
large
that from.
range.
Yeah, it's a really big range of comics and I enjoy that he did that much research into
Yeah.
it and like grabbing certain things.
It's weird because this doesn't have as much as a comic book feel as I thought it had in Spider-Man 2, but I also think that it's also playing more into stronger character dynamics. And I think Sam Raimi is going, okay, I think I've mastered how to do comic book, and now I'm really going to try to just make an emotional connection with everyone here. And for the most part, it's a success. There are times, especially with Peter, where you just sort of go, what the fuck are you talking about? But even in Venom, there are moments where it hits you. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's the jazz scene. There's the scene where he's in the jazz bar with Gwen Stacy, and he goes into a piano and dance routine that's out of this world.
It's so
I
good.
I loved it. Did not need to be in the movie.
It's no, it's perfect. It needs it.
But at the end of that, when he's arguing with MJ and like straight up slaps her, what a great like encapsulation of how far he's gone and the anger that's in him.
Mhm.
Like despite Sam not really knowing Venom besides in dialogue, in action, he did it extremely well.
Yeah, Peter's actions and just showing, his slow decline into that more kind of asshole character is done really well in this movie. I think, maybe the bangs and the eyeliner could have been taken away, but I think
Yeah.
I think it's a product of the time. Same with Harry's glider being a snowboard. I think it's just part
Yep.
of it.
I remember
Um,
when I remember when he's looking in the mirror, and he like looks at himself and he's all angsty and he pulls his hair down. I'm like, come the fuck on.
yeah,
You do
it's
not need this.
you know, 2007, that's fine. Now, no, that looks dumb,
No.
but whatever. With those kind of gripes in mind, how do you feel about the technical or kind of artsy elements through the movie?
I think, I don't know, dialogue has some issues. Acting has, or overall acting has some issues. I think the pacing is the biggest one we've pointed towards, where it's like, oh, we do a huge dip in quality the second that Sandman and Venom meet together. But I think, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this, soundtrack
Mm,
is incredibly well done in this.
very. It's iconic even now. Like people know
Mhm.
the Spider-Man 3 soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, this I've had the issue over and over again where I really can't identify the themes in the past two works because it all sort of blends together.
Like
Did not
musical
have that
themes.
problem. Yeah, I just didn't
Yeah.
get the motifs. I didn't get which characters associated with what music. Not a problem in Spider-Man 3.
Mm.
Obviously apparent. Sometimes maybe overdone, but I would rather have it overdone than underdone.
Yeah, I think, I mean, villains like Sandman and actually, I can't think of what Eddie Brock's music really was because we saw
Yeah.
so little of him and Venom together.
It
But
was it was sort of those same downturns we had
with Peter,
Peter's Venom. It's
mhm.
just sort of like the end notes of it, where it's like the brrr,
Mm.
brrr, brrr. It's just deep like horns, like
So it's more
trombones.
the lows you're saying than
Yes.
okay, that's really neat. But I think like, we can feel the weight of the movement. A lot of the music exactly ties into, how the character moves. Sandman is this big lugging kind of thing going
Yeah.
on. And we go back to Doc Ock. Doc Ock was this pretty heavy, but kind of fast, kept up thugs that were going through the music, and so it all lines up really well. And then just
Mhm.
again, that Venom theme is so iconic. And even watching this movie now, seeing it so many times, I still get goosebumps sometimes whenever the little sting starts to play in like certain moments
Mhm.
because it's really good.
I think Danny Elfman is on tour right now with Batman and Spider-Man soundtracks, and it is insane how iconic his work is on almost everything
What
he
does he do?
does.
Just stand in a parking lot with a speaker?
You go to you go to theaters. You go to, like, performance theaters. You go to opera houses.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, never mind.
No, I just imagine he's in a parking lot and he's just sort of playing it off of his phone. He's like, "Remember when I did that?" And the
It's
3
cool,
people
right,
there are
guys?
like, "Oh, yeah, I guess."
Yeah, it's cool. Thank you. um, I think the sound effects in this movie were done really well. Overall, I think, every aspect of this movie was trying to outpace and just outdo the second movie.
Mhm.
There's a lot of attention to detail, even like, Flint falling inside of the train station, falling all those flights. We can hear the echo of his scream, the
Uh-huh.
thunk of the water and the pipe that he hits, even down to like the little drips of water in the sewer after he says good riddance to Flint Marco. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of attention to detail, so you know exactly where you are, like what things are hitting what, and so it just all works out really well and it blends together perfectly. There was really nothing in this movie that I thought stood out aside from the metal pipe sound that I heard in the end, which really stuck out.
So sound was good. How did you feel about the camera movements in this?
I really didn't. It's kind of hard to say because there was a lot of. I don't know how much was necessarily CG and how much was green screened, but there's a lot of
Mhm.
elements like that where, digital cameras doing the work. But I don't think there was anything groundbreaking, I guess, in this movie.
Mhm.
There was no shot where I was like, "Holy shit." Versus in Spider-Man 2, we had
Oh.
those things with Doc Ock and then the huge fucking sun in front of him and these amazing big set pieces. But
Mhm.
in this, it's kind of just
There's some shots that come to mind when I'm thinking about this movie. There's the grate falling apart when Sandman's about to be blasted by water. There's setting up the cage around Venom with the poles. Those I
Mhm,
thought were really well done, but it's nowhere near the level of Spider-Man 2. And something I noticed in cinematography and then also in effects is the last two movies focused a lot on computer generated models to show the action.
mhm,
Um, but at least in the first fight, when we're seeing Gobby Jr. and Spider Man, or Peter Parker, because he's not in the costume,
yeah,
it's very focused on green screening them in so you can really see their face and emotion. And that movement across the New York skyline looks weird because it wasn't properly lit. And just that movement feels really weird when it's not computer generated and fluid enough.
Yeah, your brain tells you something's up.
Yeah, something's off. It's like, oh, this is Spy Kids effect. That's
Yeah,
what I'll
yeah.
call it. Because when you
There's
have this
definitely a lot of
action.
fluidity, I'll say, in Peter's movements, where I think he'll turn or maybe spin a little too easily,
Hmm.
where it doesn't necessarily feel like he has the weight of a human being, but they might just wanna show that he's crazy nimble, but
Yeah. There was just some lighting that was off during action scenes, but besides that, cinematography is okay. This is also the director of photography of this was also Bill Pope, same as the others. Love Bill Pope, great guy, but it just
good name.
seems as if there isn't the juice isn't here. The juice is not loose.
Mm-mm, juice is not loose, it's fairly contained in 2007 still. One thing I compared to 1 and 2, this movie takes place over a much longer period of time.
Hmm.
This isn't a, 2-day kinda movie where it's like everything happens in this little period where there's a lot of time between these characters that I feel like we don't see that's passing, where it's just them, like, Peter just being sad that MJ is ignoring him, and I feel like that probably went on for, like, a week or some kinda shit. Think there's just a lot of time that was left out throughout this movie.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. But I mean, a longer movie would have helped, especially in that third act. I would have loved to see more of this because there are some really good elements. I would have loved to seen a stronger Venom. Even when we were talking about Flint Marco, I'm sort of in that area where I'm thinking I get his character and his motivation, but we only see him interact with his daughter really once, and we have no idea what's happening with the money after that point.
Yeah, I mean, after I don't really understand what his motivation for killing Spider-Man was. I understand that it was
Hmm.
like he was the only one that stopped him, I guess, or semi-killed him in water.
Yeah.
But like, what? So he woke up and he was just pissed, or because he still looked at the picture of his daughter, and so I thought he was just gonna go back to like making money somehow, but he didn't.
Well, keep in mind, this is the same issue that was in his return to screen, No Way Home, where he's teamed up with the lizard, Goblin, and
Uh,
Electro, and those have very specific reasons why they want to kill him. Electro feels humiliated by him and like is making a nemesis. Um, the lizard has been thwarted by him, and he wants to enact his plan, and it can't be done with Spider-Man around. Goblin's fucking insane. But
yeah,
the whole time, Sandman's just like, I really want to help my daughter and go back home. And he's like, okay, so can we help you? And he's like, no, I'm gonna punch you.
yeah. It's just a lot of shallowness that could have been
Mhm.
explored a little more, which is disappointing. But I understand for pacing and runtime why they weren't.
Do we have much else to say? Because I'd like to get into what you think the best scene is in this.
I don't really have anything else about the movie itself. So I'm thinking that my favorite scene in the movie is probably just going to be that final fight where
Mhm.
Harry and Peter are both saving MJ. Harry and Peter are both on the glider. They're calling each other a buddy. He launches himself forward. There's just so much,
Mhm.
there's so much power in the scene. And then the music is getting to its height and everything. And then it climaxes right as Peter lands with MJ. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And you just see tears start to well in her eyes.
Mhm.
That whole scene just really good. I love it. It's really well paced and put out,
Mhm.
and it just has to be one of my favorites in the movie.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Even though there's some muddiness around that ending, they try their hardest to make the trio have as much emotion in them as possible. This has been a story about that trio this entire time and their dynamics, how they shift. And I think having that center to this Spider Man trilogy is what really makes it stand through the test of time. It's very similar to, contemporary stuff like Harry Potter, where we're really sticking with a trilogy and they'll fight and their dynamics will change, but seeing that change really helps understand each character.
Yeah, I'll completely agree with that. I don't think one thing I really enjoyed in this movie compared to newer Marvel movies is that it didn't treat me like a baby. There was a love plot. There was a whole cheating thing. There's another guy
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
those are big plot lines for kids, and it was still fun. I loved this movie when I was
Yeah.
little, and so there's so much action in these scenes. Along with that, I get confused why Marvel feels as if they can't do that now.
Yeah, I'll have to agree because, like, even when Spider-Man tried incorporating some of this where it's like not adult topics, but dealing with relationship drama similar to that. It was in Far From Home where everybody's like, dude, I think I saw Peter naked with some dudes in a room during the Europe trip. There hasn't been, I guess, this divisive and I guess real connection and conflict between characters in Marvel since roughly Civil War and just Iron Man and Cap. I've always felt that's the most powerful, like, I guess, conflict that's happened in Marvel.
Yeah,
And
like
since then,
emotional
I
conflict.
haven't really felt anything. I mean, I guess between at least friends, where it's like you're fighting someone very close to you.
Way you phrase that, it just sounds like you just haven't felt anything in life since you watched that movie.
Yeah,
It's just
ever
been
since I
complete
watched, Avengers
Civil War.
Endgame, I have been on depression medication, and everything is numb to the point where I have my thermostat set up to 99 just so I can feel some warmth in my life.
Wow, your landlord loves you. Um, what are you gonna think your favorite scene is?
My favorite scene, I'd probably have to say, is the proposal scene with or the French
The dinner
dining scene.
proposal? Yeah.
Yes. It's really good at both doing a shit ton of comedy, really good comedy in this scene.
Mhm.
And then also like getting into the nitty-gritty of MJ and Peter's relationship and showing just like everything. I really enjoyed how Peter is an arrogant asshole before he gets Venom. Because the central thing is like, no, it's not just that there's Venom. These are problems that are real to you.
Yeah, it
You can't
heightens the
just
issue.
excuse it
Yeah.
as just the Venom. And that plays really well into the Flint Marco ending because when it's like I've made a mistake and I'm trying to get past it, Peter has to rectify. Yes, I've made horrible mistakes too, and it's not like I can just excuse them.
Mhm.
I've like soft cheated on my girlfriend. I hit her. I have just been an asshole to so many people, and it's ultimately partly or entirely my fault. A good chunk my fault.
Pretty good. Pretty big part.
Pretty big part.
Yeah.
But I think that Flint Marko part actually plays into your least favorite scene, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, yeah. So in this movie, again, one complaint we always have in almost every Spider-Man movie is people always hate seeing Uncle Ben die again.
Mhm.
Sam Raimi didn't really know that at the time, these being, the first kind of early Spider-Man movies. So he just wanted us to make sure to remember and reminded us in every single fucking movie multiple times that Uncle Ben died. Um, And in this, there's multiple scenes where we see Uncle Ben and Flint Marko interacting, and Uncle Ben's like crying, and then Flint kills him, and he's like, "Oh, he's dead," and his partner runs away. Stupid.
Mhm.
I don't need to see that again. You can tell me about it, or at the most, show me once, but I don't need to see it 4 different times throughout this movie alone. That's too much. It's just stupid.
I have to say though, I really like how they technically showed it because having the conflicting viewpoints, having the black and white and color interspliced on important parts, I thought
Mhm.
really helped sell the emotion of it, especially the close-ups they had of each character and showing their eyes. I really enjoyed, but I did think I didn't need to see
Yeah, I didn't like it.
it.
But overall, with all other stuff that we kind of said, how are you feeling like you're gonna want to rate this?
I I walked into this, I remembered more of this than I definitely did Spider-Man 2. Not as much as
Mm,
Spider-Man 1. I think I was just attached to Spider-Man 1 a lot.
mm,
But watching this and seeing all of the Venom, just like, I guess, screw ups in story, seeing an ending that I thought was really rushed and convoluted, it didn't leave me feeling like as happy and has like invigorated as I was with Spider-Man 1 and 2. And I still end up enjoying the movie, but when I keep thinking of it, I'm thinking more of all the weird moments where I'm like, "Are you fucking really?" It's a movie where very similar to maybe Evil Dead 1, people could love this because of the unintentional, just huge comedy in it because it wasn't as strong as it could be. And I'm gonna go back and watch it for comedy, but against Evil Dead 1, I had expectations with this and they
mm.
weren't met. So I'm gonna probably give this a 3 stars.
Okay. Um, God, man. I mean, this is something else. Like this movie, I personally just love this movie. You know, this was my personal Spider-Man movie. This was the DVD I had growing up. I watched this just so many times that the disc wore out. Um, watching the three movies, you know, back to back like this, I can fully acknowledge that I think Spider-Man 2 is the superior like movie. I think it's better in the its overall characters and its pacing and just the whole package I think is cleaner. But in Spider-Man 3, I just think there's a lot more action, which I always wanted in the other two. There's a lot more characters, so that characterization is kind of brought over with just more. And then some of the writing isn't always great, but then it's so funny now that it kind of gets through it, and that's just my nostalgia for the movie. So I'm gonna have to say it's probably a 5. I just love Spider-Man 3. It's a good movie.
I get it. I get it. I Even though I don't find myself attached to this, I can definitely see how there's so much love that could be put into it. Nick, could we talk a little bit about your behavior um offset
No,
before
so
we
we're gonna go to this ad. See you guys later. Here at WAM, we use this podcast as an artful avenue to blissfully and peacefully vent our fiery, unbridled rage buried deep, deep down. And now you can too.
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you will always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you thought about podcasting before and you realize that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code WAM and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan.
We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. We got some movie news. We got some movie news. We got some movie news. Nick, are you happy?
No.
Oh,
Oh.
to start off, we have some strange allegations that we have popping up. Nothing sexual, as we're kind of like, I guess, sadly used to hearing in Hollywood, but we do have some weird accounts from Dwayne Johnson on the set of Red One, which is a Christmas movie that he had been filming. It was known for being sort of like a really weird looking movie because it looked incredibly similar to other Christmas action movies that have been coming out at this time. But there are some people on the set of Red One accused Dwayne Johnson of consistently showing up 8 hours late to set.
Wow.
Yeah, if he shows up at all. And then there was this thing where he wouldn't want to hold time for him to go to the bathroom, so he would like pretty often pee into water bottles.
Dude,
It's
that's nasty.
yeah,
What the fuck?
it's weird because as much as like Dwayne Johnson has his problems with getting bad scripts and getting and his no lose rule, Dwayne Johnson, I think up to this point, I had only heard good things about in production, where it's like he's super easy to work with. He'll do what like is usually needed, and he's just like really happy to be places.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything bad about him on set before. That's weird.
No, but I think this might be a new thing. This might be a consistent thing. I don't know. This could obviously not be true, but I don't feel like there's much that can really be gained from set, like lying about him being late to set. That seems like something that's too small to
Yeah, it's
really
too
lie
minuscule
about.
to it's so minuscule that at that point it's like, why would you bitch about it? And then if you're not bitching, why would you lie about it?
Mhm.
Like, so it's obviously a big enough concern.
I do believe the rest of this cast, the big names in this was J.K. Simmons as Buff Santa, and
Mhm.
then Ryan Reynolds as Dwayne Johnson's like partner in whatever movie they're doing. I don't know. I'm never gonna see this.
Yeah.
It it just doesn't look appealing. I don't want to watch another action Christmas movie. I think we perfected it at Arthur Christmas.
Yeah, Arthur Christmas was pretty fucking wild. You're right.
Was that what it
Um,
was called?
which one are you talking about? That's
Uh,
the animated one with the kids like lanky.
Yeah, the animated one where he has to take up the role of his father as Santa
Yeah,
for a
his dad
night,
Santa.
and, like, he has to do it the old-fashioned way because their UFO isn't working or some shit.
Yeah, bad movie.
I thought there was some fun. Um,
Okay.
okay, there's still second movie news. There's still the issue of distribution with this movie, but
Hmm.
we now have a first look at Megalopolis, the latest movie from Francis Ford Coppola. I sent you over a photo. It
Hmm.
shows the main character Adam Driver in this very interesting urban landscape with this unique art style, and I'm really excited for this because I have no idea what this could turn out to be. He's been talking about remaking Megalopolis, which is a huge movie that was either pre-sound or at the beginning of sound. Um,
It was pre like dialogue. They were still using like cue cards on the screen.
okay. So this is ultimately Francis Ford Coppola bringing a beloved old-timey movie and like trying to redo it for a new audience.
Mhm.
And just I'm really excited to see what this goes, especially because this art style in this promo looks very interesting.
A lot of a lot of Megalopolis is just very art deco kind of dystopian society. I'm
Mm.
hoping that we see more because in the picture, and I'll show it on screen here. In the picture, this kind of just looks like a New York to me. There's
Mhm.
nothing particularly special about this. I mean, maybe besides Adam Driver's stupid shirt that he has on. But besides that, I don't think anything looks too crazy here. But it is literally one screenshot of them standing. So
Yeah.
I hope it's more.
That's fair. I think Adam Driver has consistently shown himself to be a great actor that's in bad places. So I think him being in a Francis Ford Coppola movie is very good. I think we can really see his potential there because he's done his best in a lot of roles. He did great as
Yeah, like
Kylo Ren.
65. He did great there. Fantastic movie.
We do not talk about 65. Um, um, fuck, man. I'm thinking
You're
about 65 now.
welcome.
But I mean, he did great as Kylo Ren. He did great in Black Klansman. I'm
Mhm.
really hoping that this is where it all comes back for him because he shouldn't be sort of in this rut that he's in now.
Yeah, he's kind of fallen into obscurity almost. I really haven't heard Adam Driver in a long time besides, was it a TV show or a really emotional movie that he did?
He did
That was pretty big?
he did Ferrari pretty
Oh,
recently.
yeah, there's that.
There's
Um,
Ferrari that sort of didn't sell well.
there was the one where it was like him and his wife and he was screaming at her.
Oh, Marriage Story.
Yeah,
He did
yeah, Marriage
oh,
Story. People
Marriage
really liked him
Story.
in that.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard that that is probably his best performance.
I haven't seen it either. I just
Because
heard really good stuff about him in there.
yeah.
I hope that it's good, but
Mhm,
Megalopolis is such a weird movie,
mhm,
um, that I'm a little nervous which how if it is changed, then, like, what the fuck are they gonna do?
mhm. Speaking of good directors in strange places, Barry Jenkins has released the trailer for his newest movie. He previously made Moonlight, which won Best Picture. Guess what movie he is making now?
Sunlight.
He's making the prequel movie to the live action Lion King.
What the fuck? What? Why
Nobody
do we
knows
need that?
why.
No one wanted that movie when the first Lion King live action came out.
um, not only that, but the music will be written by Lin Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame.
Oh,
Yeah. Donald Glover and Beyonce will briefly return to their roles of Simba and Nala, but only I think in flash or forward back or
mhm,
flash forward. That's
yeah,
the term people use.
that too.
But it's
We don't need it.
we don't need it, especially not from Barry.
Mm-mm,
Funny enough, in the show Barry, the Bill Hader show, there's a
mhm,
joke where they have the director of Coda do this like really dumb sci-fi movie, and she has a line where it's like, when people watch I think what Women Defenders 6, I hope they know that this is the same kind of energy I put into Coda. And it's just a joke about how these like acclaimed directors that are fresh off the boat sort of get put right onto Marvel projects and stuff like that. This
mhm.
happened with I forgot her name, but the director of Nomadland went from getting Best Director, Best Picture to then making Eternals.
Yeah, we saw how that went, but
Yeah.
I really think that Marvel is just kind of scrambling for their their amazing actor. They're just trying to find someone right now that can really give, not actor, director,
Mhm.
that can really give them that strong kind of direction that I think they've been lacking for the last few years. We have been
Mhm.
moving from director to director, which hasn't it hasn't always been a huge problem, but in this, the
Mhm.
feel of each movie is so starkly different, and they're all really not great that
Mhm.
Marvel just hasn't been going in a good direction
Right.
for a long while.
We've in my opinion had two directors that have made multiple movies for Marvel that have really stood out. Um and it's the Russo brothers, who stood
Mm,
out because they do whatever was fucking told of them.
yeah.
And then we had Ryan Coogler for Black Panther 1 and 2 that actually put a noticeable style into the films and like made it pretty good.
Yeah, I
Um
also enjoyed, what was it, Multiverse of Madness with Sam Raimi.
Sam
Yeah.
who?
Sam Ravioli.
Oh, love that guy.
Yeah.
Love his brother, Boyardee.
Did Sam Raimi direct, Spider-Man 3 with his brother?
He wrote, the story with Ivan Raimi, I believe.
Oh, okay. I saw that in the intro credits. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's so fun."
There's a great history of brothers working together on stories, and I think, I'm really excited to see what you do with your brother, Wick Palme.
I'll let you know when I find him. It's coming big though. It's gonna be crazy.
Um, oh, speaking of Marvel, and Marvel directors, Chris Hemsworth recently, during the press tour for Furiosa, which we do you have any interest in Furiosa?
Uh, I'm I'm interested to see if it's good or not. If they just
Mhm.
do a "I am woman, hear me roar" type character, I think it's gonna be shit. If they just make a strong character that's also a woman, I think it could be good.
Yeah. But Chris Hemsworth is sort of having to answer for Thor 4 in the press tour.
Mhm.
And what he said is, well, first of all, they wanted to differentiate the character from the rest of the movies he was in because people said he was just sort of like this nameless bodyguard that no one cared about.
Yeah.
Ragnarok happened and they saw that comedy could be an angle. And in the fourth movie, he said he made himself too much of a caricature and did too much improv and comedy. And that sort of just made the character a joke when it should have been a more emotion driven movie. And people have been pretty quick to point out, hey, Chris, you can't really put yourself too much in the dirt for that because there's someone on set that is tasked with directing your performance and trying to get the best out of you, and they are probably more responsible with how your performance turned out than you doing improv that was left unchecked and then put into the final cut edit.
Yeah. Um, I think there were some other jobs that were a little lacking on set that day, apparently.
Yes, for some reason, somebody just like saw Chris's performance and went, you know what, that might be the best thing we've ever got. It's
And then they slammed their head into the table. Yeah.
it's Taika Waititi has been in this weird place. I've heard some people love Next Goal Wins, but I really do think he has no idea how to handle Thor. He just knew the comedy aspect, and then when it got to these overarching and like dark places, he sort of lost his, I don't know, mojo.
I mean, I've heard good things about his other not Marvel movies. I've never
Mhm.
heard anything good about his Marvel movies.
I
I
liked Ragnarok, although they
I
did Hulk shit.
I really didn't. I
Mhm.
think Ragnarok was very, like, it just didn't it was the start of this movie's way too funny,
Mm.
comedy, and I didn't like that start.
Oh, I get that. So it's would you say that, like, Guardians 2 was, like, still at a healthy level and then Ragnarok is what threw it overboard?
I think Guardians 2 had a pass just because the Guardians are so, A, disconnected from the other Marvel characters, and B, they just are such, like, joking kinda characters. That's exactly what Guardians 1 was.
Mhm.
So I think that's okay. It's an evolution of their characters. It was a little hammy at times, but that
Mhm.
you could tone it down some. But in the other movies, like, just way too much. It was to the point of, like, I just didn't wanna watch the movie anymore. because I felt
Mhm.
like it didn't take it seriously.
That is fair. That is fair. We do need to, I guess, balance both. But it's weird because people have talked about how like every movie has to have a comedy aspect in it now. You know what I mean?
I don't yeah, I mean, when people think of comedy aspect, I think they're just thinking of, like, just a literal joke or stuff like that, or just, like,
Mhm.
comedic full scenes, but they're really not accepting that they can have that comedy within, these really other strong scenes, like, um, I can't think of a specific one, but in Spider-Man 3, we had all those serious, whatever, brooding moments with Peter, but then there's still be like, "Imma rub some dirt in your eye," kinda stuff where it's like where it's just you still
Yeah.
have this serious moment, but there's funny bits incorporated with it, and it doesn't completely
Yeah.
take you out of it.
I think maybe you can even point to the Batman with something similar where it's like, "No Espanol, fellas!"
Mhm,
Stuff.
yeah, exactly, and you don't need to completely full stop your plot in order to make a joke. That's no
Yeah.
reason.
That's fair. Speaking of comedy, and this has to be, I think, one of the best headlines that have come out soon. Jerry Seinfeld, the current executive producer for the Pop Tarts movie, has come out in an interview saying that you could not make Seinfeld today because of the woke left.
He wanted to make race jokes in the Pop-Tarts movie, and they wouldn't let him. Guarantee that's what it was. Oh,
Jerry, we can not say that certain Pop Tarts are given different like classes because of how burnt they are. We
I'm just a
cannot add
creative
that
cage
in.
here.
it's it's so weird because he's saying like just like there's no comedy shows out nowadays that like are I guess pushing the envelope, and it's because they're just not allowed to make jokes anymore. I will say that like Curb Your Enthusiasm ended a couple weeks ago and it was still pushing stuff just in like
Yeah.
very similar ways to Seinfeld.
Yeah, I mean, and, South Park, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, both still running, both raunchy
Yeah.
as hell, so I think he's just wrong.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think Jerry Seinfeld might be part of a small group of people that are sort of using that like catchphrase of "you can't do it because of woke" to make up for a career they might not want. Because I think we all recognize that Seinfeld had Seinfeld, and then after that, it's been nothing but eh.
Yeah, I never personally watched the entirety of Seinfeld, I watched a good chunk of it, um, but a lot of that, I think it's just that he can't think of new types of jokes where it's that, a comedian's always gonna be ragging on somebody. Someone's always gonna get the butt of a joke, but
Mhm.
he can't make any jokes without, like, really, like, hammering into that sometimes, and I think that sense of humor, he's just creatively, like, stumped. He doesn't know what else to make with it maybe, and just
Maybe,
I don't know, but
yeah. Because like I don't know, I'm not excited for the Pop Tart movie. I'm not.
I
I'm
don't
not.
I don't think I was gonna be excited for it regardless. I don't know. I don't think you get any director on there that'd make me excited.
I bought Pop Tart merch, but this has been a breach of trust in the Pop Tart brand, and I think Pop Tart needs to issue an apology and fire Jerry Seinfeld.
Dude, I'm gonna need to get rid of my Pop-Tart tattoo. This is bad. This is a bad day.
um. Speaking, we've been talking about these re-releases in theaters this week. So around the start of May, Phantom Menace is returning back to theaters for the 25th anniversary, or how I like to call it, the 25th Annie.
I bet you're proud of
I'm pretty proud of that.
that.
Pretty when I like just abbreviated Annie or anniversary to Annie, I was like, holy shit.
I'm a genius. Um, yeah, I think, I'm pretty excited for it. I always enjoyed the prequels more than the original trilogy just because
Mhm.
of visual aspect, and I like Darth Vader.
That's fair. It's weird because I had that same feeling because I don't know, for the longest time I never watched Empire or Return, or so I was really just basing it off of base Star Wars.
Mhm.
And then when I started watching Empire Strikes Back, I was at that point where I noticed lighting and color, and looking at the lighting and the color and the dynamics in most of the shots in Empire Strikes Back, my jaw is to the ground, just going, "Oh, so pretty." And then watching the trilogy there's some great elements in it when it comes to set design, but I think it has this weird.
The prequel trilogy you're talking about?
Yeah, the prequel
Okay.
trilogy has this beautiful backgrounds, but I ultimately don't love the close-ups, and I don't love the base lighting, and I think that has to do with a bigger focus on green screens and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot more computer generation in there compared to the first one, obviously. Um, but that's cool. I mean, I'm happy for it. I'll probably see it in theaters.
Yeah. There's also around the same time going to be, and we talked about this, the marathon, the May 4th marathon, where I think at select theaters they're showing every movie back to wait, let me count this. Back to 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 back.
Damn, that's too many.
To back.
That'd
I
be like
missed one
so
back.
long. What would that be, like 16 hours or something like that?
It's the full 24 hours. You're just in and out of there.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Dude, that theater's gonna smell so bad.
It's going to smell bad before it gets to the 5 hour mark. Like you walk in and it smells bad. Let's not act as if the time frame is what's getting it
All
bad.
those people sitting in that room, it's gonna smell rank. That's gonna be horrible.
Now, what I find really funny is, um, how quick do you think it's going to turn into people just talking with their neighbors?
Um, I think we'll get. I'll say first movie we're definitely getting through. Second movie, halfway through, they're getting anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and then third movie, they're just talking about any scene they see. They want to say something. I think that's the pull.
Yeah, I mean that's probably it. And that's like the kind of thing where like there's dedicated fans in there. But you can't
Yeah.
have like you couldn't have a celebrity like, sneak into the theater.
Do you have any more news?
I think there's some smaller stuff we can talk about, but at the end of the day, those are our big hits. I don't think anybody wants to hear about the Russo brothers Guy Ritchie Hercules movie.
Nope, I don't.
Well, then I think we're all good. Before we go, I do have maybe one announcement.
Mhm.
Um, Me and Nick are going to be reunited in person for this summer when we're calling it Wham's Bodacious Summer.
Okay,
I had to think
we
of an
are.
adjective.
I can tell.
But we are just going to be watching some great summer releases together, and we have more news about the future of Wham and some cool little things we have planned in the future. So just stay tuned. We have a lot this summer to look forward to.
Yeah. I think it'll be really fun. Well, we have some stuff in the works. We're just trying to overall improve the quality of Wham. So it'll be good. It'll be really cool. I'm excited.
Mhm.
But it's been episode 38 of Wham. We watched Spider-Man 3 from 2007, the last of the Sam Raimi trilogy. We hope you all enjoyed. This has been Wham,
And you've been whammed.
and see you next week. Follow our socials.
I want to put some piss in your eye.
Put some piss in your eye.